From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I am your host, Sean Fazende. Riding shotgun next to me, as he does each and every podcast, is Andre Johnson
Jr.
Do not forget the Junior. Before we get into today's content, be sure to like, share, rate, and review. If you are watching us on YouTube, please do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Get the bell notification for when we drop that fire content. And we have another one today. Both of us are back from our Memorial Day vacations. It's been a fun weekend, but we were back to work with Saints OTAs today. But first things first, how was your vacation?
It was good. Spent a lot of time with the in-laws in Naples, did a sunset cruise, ate a lot of food, relaxed by the pool a little bit. So, yeah, I can't complain.
Yeah, I had a good weekend. I went to 30A, Memorial Day, went to the beach, had a really, really, really good time. Your boy tried to pull one today. I don't know if I'll try this again, but got my family up very, very early, about 4 a.m., got them in the car, got them all packed, let them sleep, and I drove in, dropped them off at the house, and went straight to OTAs. So it's been a long day for yours truly. But I'm glad I went to Saints OTAs today because there was a lot of things significant updates of what happened out there today, and I think that's where we're going to go with the big picture. Absolutely.
One person who really starred at week 2 of OTAs was Derek Carr, Saints quarterback, really starting to get used to the Clint Kubiak system and this new offense that he brought with him, and it's showing. What did you see from Carr today?
Saw a lot today. I thought he was the best player on the field today. I thought he was really good, thought he was really solid, thought he was very efficient. He went 8 of 8 on the field. He's starting to really pick up on the Clint Kubiak system on the field. But there's more because we're talking about Derek Carr, franchise quarterback, QB1, a guy that was very polarizing a season ago, and a guy that we spoke to last week, and I said, how much more at ease he sounded when he spoke to us and some of the things he was saying about being further ahead than where he was a season ago, because he's not new to the city anymore. He's not finding a house. He's not doing all the things with the family transition. And I'm telling you, it is showing up on the field. I really wanted to watch him from a body language standpoint today, and I just said it. It feels like he is at ease because those things that had really hung over him last year just almost felt like he just could never quite catch up. Well, now he's finally there, and you're just seeing a guy that's comfortable, in a good place mentally, in a good spot within the organization. Certainly feels like he's in a good spot when it comes to the city of New Orleans. Now, we know it's May. Everybody feels good in May, and it's not going to matter if they start 0-5 and everybody's going to call for him to be benched. We understand that. But it almost feels like now he's in the right mind space or head space to feel comfortable with taking over the franchise or taking charge of the franchise, which is what you want a franchise quarterback to do, and which is obviously what the Saints paid Derek Carr to be. I think he wanted to be that last year. I think he was trying to be that last year, but when you're playing catch up in a spot where there's a lot of established veterans, a lot of established personalities, perhaps that was a harder hill to climb than many people thought. Now you transition to a new offensive system that obviously caters to his game with the play-action game. Plus, he is really connected with Demario Davis. Demario Davis spoke to us today about Derek Carr, spoke glowingly about him for about 10, 15 minutes. They're doing this sort of faith worship, night of worship together, June 11th. And it's a free event, but Demario said that it was Derek Carr that wanted to put it on and got together with Demario, and they're going to bring people together and have a night of worship. It just goes to show you that he's now feeling more comfortable, I guess, sort of branching out as opposed to just doing, kind of just catching up with everything that was already established here a season ago. Again, it's May, it's OTAs, it's off season. Everybody should be happy. Everybody should be in a good mood. And we all know they start off in a bad place. It's going to be, in the city when it comes to Derek Carr. But I do think it's something to notice. I do think it's something to comment on, because I do think there is a difference from where he was now where he is now to where he was a season ago. And look, last week he had a solid OTA. This week he had a really good OTA. They mixed in some nickel and some base and some 11 personnel and some 12 personnel. He had a great wheel route to Taysom Hill over Pete Werner during 7-on-7. He had A.T. Perry at about a 20-yard gain on a skinny post or maybe a seam route, however you want to define the route. He beat Tyrann Mathieu to the inside. He had another play-action play where he hit EQ St. Brown on a dig route over the middle of the field, final play of team, where he got about 25, 30 yards. So he had a really good day, and then I'm just kind of watching him interacting with teammates. Again, a lot of intense conversation last year trying to get on the same page with everything, but now it just feels like there's a little more natural connection with the guys, or at least the guys that are there. And look, that's another thing. Not all the starters are there. We understand that. But still, a good day is a good day, and Derek Carr deserves his credit for today because I thought he had a really good day of practice for the Saints. OTA, I guess it's OTA number 4, the second OTA we were able to see, the second week of OTAs here in this offseason program.
Something else I think Derek Carr deserves a lot of credit for, and it's not talked about as much because when it comes to Derek Carr and Saints fans, you either love him, you hate him, you're typically on one of those two extremes. But I want to give some context to the end of last season for Derek Carr. Now, we both said it shouldn't have taken 3 months for the offensive coordinator last year, Pete Carmichael, to really lock into what Derek Carr does well and start scheming to that, which was the play action.
Yeah.
But once he did, in that last month of the season, 4 games, New York Giants, Derek Carr went 23 for 28, 218 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Los Angeles Rams, 27 for 40, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Next week against Tampa Bay, 24 of 32, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Last week of the season against the Atlanta Falcons, 22 for 28, 264 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Over the last 4 games of the season in total, 998 yards, 12 touchdowns, 1 interception, while completing 75% of his passes. 3-1 in those last 4 games. And it's not like they were scrubs. He beat 2 playoff teams, or he played 2 playoff teams during that stretch. And all of them were meaningful games for the Saints because you were fighting for the division lead and for the wild card.
Yep.
I say all that to say, down the stretch, when Derek Carr really started to get comfortable in the offense he was running and they started to scheme towards what he did well, he played really good football. Now you're bringing in a coordinator who that whole Shanahan tree, all of that system, it's kind of based around running the ball and working off of play action, which is Derek Carr's strength. Now you're bringing in Clint Kubiak, somebody who we can assume is going to be a lot more creative than the previous regime was, somebody who we can assume will continue to build upon what Derek Carr does well. Now, obviously, this is a small sample size, a 4-game stretch to end the season, but you could argue Carr was elite during that stretch. Now you're bringing in a guy who's going to build upon what we saw from Derek Carr at the end of the season. And I think the comfortability that you're seeing now is kind of a result of that. So Derek Carr, I mean, people might be underestimating or setting the expectations for him too low this season, because when you look at how he ended the season last year and all of the ways that the team has gotten better from a coaching perspective this year, Derek Carr, he might surprise some people this year.
Yeah, and look, there's a couple things that have to happen. A, they got to know who the offensive line is going to be.
Yeah.
They have to know. And last week, obviously, we talked about Trevor Penning. He was back on the right side. Today, it was all Nick Saldiveri at left guard. That's important. Can that come together? Because that's going to make or break everything. You mentioned something else. The emphasis and the creativity in the run game. We talked about 3 or 4 different offensive players today, and they all talked about getting to the edge in the run game and how much that sets everything up, how much that's the foundation of everything in this offense, both run game and obviously bootleg and play action pass game. So those things have to come together. And there's also this. Derek Carr now is in a situation where he's not feeling like he's overstepping his bounds or overstepping, where he should be overstepping where he should be in terms of being a leader and being out in front and being, I don't know if you call it more vocal, less vocal, or just being the strong presence that he is. He, regardless if you love him or hate him, he is a strong presence. That's just kind of his personality. So now maybe perhaps you're seeing him a little bit more of himself, a little bit more natural, a little bit more just comfortable in his surroundings. And hopefully that leads to more effective play on the football field, because honestly, it's all that matters. We could talk about bonds with friendships and getting along well with teammates and everything in the community, all that stuff. End of the day, you're getting paid to win games, so it's got to happen that way. So great practice today by Derek Carr. We'll see if he can follow it up. There is some genuine levels of excitement with his game, within this offense, and this offense in general. And I got to say, yet again, I'm just so programmed to see how an offense worked for so long, to see how different things look from a drill standpoint, from the routes they practice, from the running game type stuff that they're doing. It's so different to see. And it's refreshing to see because it's throwing everybody off a little bit offensively, but also defensively, because there's some things you could kind of predict over time when you see the same offense for so long. Yeah. Not the case right now. I think everyone's kind of really enjoying this sort of kind of refreshment of the offense because it's kind of leaking into other areas of the organization that I think they feel somewhat optimistic about. Now, the rest of the league probably doesn't, and the fan base is probably still skeptical. But if you can't be optimistic now, when can you be optimistic?
Exactly.
I mean, it's the offseason.
Nothing's gone wrong yet.
Exactly. So that's where we stood there when it came to Derek Carr and OTA number 4.
Right. And one last thing about Carr before we get to another quarterback. It's interesting to note Taysom Hill has been exclusively working with the fullbacks, and from what we've seen so far at OTAs, the carries that he's taken, they're not the typical quarterback draws, QB powers, QB, roll them out. They've been real carries like that you would see a fullback take, and it seems like it's going to be more of an emphasis on Taysom Hill kind of really playing that fullback position, maybe split him out wide, get him some tight end work. But I think one thing that was hard on Derek Carr, especially towards the end of the season, the Detroit game comes to mind, is just trying to get things rolling. And if he's struggling, then he's coming out. Taysom's coming in, the crowd reaction to Taysom, and Taysom kind of taking a few snaps at quarterback. Then Carr is back in. Then a few plays later, he's out. I'm sure they won't go away from that completely because it's very powerful in short yardage situations. But it seems like there may be less of that this year, which I think only plays further into Carr's confidence level.
We'll see how it all plays out with the actual number of snaps and, is he on the field not touching the ball? What is he doing? How long is he getting the ball? The ratio, how it all sort of worked itself out. And we talked to Taysom today, and we talked about, when's the last time he had true running back snaps, taking a carry as a true running back in the backfield, like he took an inside zone today. He said maybe in his time in New Orleans, I can only think of one carry as a true running back, and he said less than 10.
I think he had one in Carolina last year. He took like a quick toss.
Yeah, I think he's taken 2 tosses. Carolina, for some reason, a Bears game from a few years ago stands out as well. But he ain't done a lot of it, so he's already getting he's getting a chance to reinvent himself again for a guy that's done all these things for the Saints. So certainly fun to watch, and certainly interesting to kind of watch develop in front of our eyes.
Right, and now we've talked about how much confidence Derek Carr has showed. A quarterback who may be rattled early on is the Saints' 5th-round draft pick, Spencer Rattler. He has struggled so far in OTAs. Now, obviously, you kind of expect that to a degree because he is a rookie, and it's a lot of information that he's being given in a short amount of time. But from what you've seen from Spencer Rattler in these 2 OTAs that they've allowed us to watch, what were your takeaways?
Yeah, he's not there yet. He's just not. Look, the rookie minicamp day was solid. Was it 3-4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
But OTA number 1, he struggled, and Haener shined. Today, Haener was fine. He wasn't great. He wasn't bad. He was kind of in the middle. But Spencer Rattler struggled again. Open 7-on-7 with a throw. We couldn't tell if it was a DB tipped it up, or the throw was behind, or if it went off the receiver's hands. I think it was to Bub Means. Ball was up in the air. Millard Bradford gets the pick off the tip. Then during team, he runs a play action during a run period. Just YOLO throws it deep to Means again, and it wasn't even close. It was too far inside. It was too late. Bradford came over the top, intercepted it again. There were 2 other passes that were almost intercepted. He's going through his progressions. He's just not getting there fast enough. Understandable, because it's his 4th practice as a pro, 5th practice as a pro if you count rookie minicamp, with his new teammates in his new city. It's going to take some time. But everyone that was jumping on the Spencer Rattler hype train after rookie minicamp, it is what it is, guys. He's just not going to be – he's not there yet, and he's got a long way to go. And I think there's a couple things he's got to get to from just how to layer the ball, kind of texture the ball. Sometimes so many passes are getting kind of popped high in the air, almost like the ball's coming off his hand too hard when there's that many. So he'll get there, and he'll get there eventually. But right now, he's let's just call him a work in progress. Let's just call Spencer Rattler a work in progress, frankly, as he should be.
Right. I mean, and you got to keep in mind, he was drafted in the 5th round. Caleb Williams was drafted to change life for Chicago, to be the starter day one.
Exactly.
Jaden Daniels, he's supposed to change life in Washington, be the starter day one. Same with Drake May, J.J. McCarthy. You could argue Bo Nix, Michael Penix. They have plans to see him starting in the future. Somebody drafted in the 5th round, he was not drafted to necessarily change life in New Orleans. He was not necessarily drafted, certainly not to be the starter this year or even next year. He was drafted because the Saints held him in high regard. They had him high on his draft board. How high, we don't know right now, but we know it was high. He was sitting there in the 5th round, and despite them not necessarily needing a quarterback, they felt good enough about Rattler to bring him on to the roster. So you kind of got to temper expectations. A lot of the QB1 comments and everything that people said because they saw him throwing at rookie camp, that was never really realistic to put on his shoulders this early. Right now, Spencer Rattler needs to adjust to the pro game. And the stuff you mentioned earlier, I mean, the pro game moves a lot faster than what he experienced at Oklahoma and South Carolina. He's got to get used to the speed of the game, the level of athleticism that the guys he's playing against has. He's got to get used to the playbook and really learn this offense like everybody else is learning. But this is the first time he's having to learn a professional offense. And people underestimate that sometimes takes time. And he's not getting a lot of the first team reps like all of the guys I named earlier. Like Caleb Williams is going to step into Chicago and get first team reps right away. That's not the case for Spencer Rattler. He's not going to get the number of reps that maybe those rookies who are going to step in and ball out day one are going to get. So you kind of got to temper your expectations for that, because right now he's looking like the team's third string quarterback. Derek Carr is playing some of the best football that we've seen him play so far, at least in practice, since he's gotten here. Jake Haener, he's doing what Jake Haener does. He's always shined in practice situations. Spencer Rattler, he's just got to learn. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's what you should expect, but he's got to learn. He's got to figure this thing out, and we'll see where he goes from there.
We haven't even hit June yet. And if you were out there tweeting at me, QB1, look, man, I hate to disappoint y'all, but he got picked off twice today. Could have got picked off more. It's May. It's fine. He's not going to be there. You and I understood a 5th-round pick was not drafted to be the franchise savior. Hey, if he works out and maybe he kind of outperforms where he was drafted and he kind of becomes an outlier and he's able to develop into something, so be it. But no one thought it was going to happen right now. And he's still got a long way to go. And we'll see what happens. And look, he's still got plenty of time to make up any kind of ground he may need to make up in time for the regular season. But let the process play out. And right now, he looks like a rookie. Hopefully, by the end of the at the end of OTAs and into training camp, he'll look less and less like a rookie and more like a guy that kind of can truly compete for that backup spot. But right now, it is what it is. It's a rookie on his 4th practice, and he struggled a bit the last 2 practices we were able to see. So, Spencer Rattler, keep working. That's all we can say.
Exactly. And, if the Patriots knew drafting Tom Brady in the 6th round that he would be the greatest of all time, then I'm pretty sure they would have drafted him a lot earlier. Maybe Spencer Rattler, same with Dak Prescott in the 4th, Russell Wilson in the 3rd. We've seen these mid to late quarterbacks pan out. Maybe Spencer Rattler does down the field, but for now, let's temper our expectations. Now, another unit that has a lot of expectations on their shoulders is the defensive line, specifically the defensive end position, where we've talked about how many guys are in that room. Well, now there's one less guy who's able to play in that room, because defensive end Tano Passigno, we learned that throughout the offseason training program, he tore his Achilles. So he's out indefinitely. We talked about how that room had 6 quality guys: Chase Young, Tano Passigno, Cam Jordan, Isaiah Foskey, Peyton Turner. Who am I missing? I'm forgetting one. Carl Granderson. Now they're down. Tano wasn't going to start for this team, but his loss, how does that affect the team?
Depth. I mean, it's it. He's a solid veteran, a dependable veteran that gives you versatility. Doesn't need to be the starter, but can give you starter snaps. I mean, and he's selfless. Like you need guys like that on your team. So depth. Now, it happened in a time frame to where he's got a shot to get back on the field this season, maybe start the regular season into second month of the season. Great. Get that depth back. But it's a significant blow to a defensive line that's still sorting itself out, a defensive end position that's still kind of figuring themselves out. Now, look, now you have Tano out, okay? You talk about Cam, Chase Young. So now those are 3 guys that are not getting reps, okay, at defensive end. Peyton Turner and Isaiah Foskey.
Yep.
Take advantage of this opportunity and do some things on the football field. I will say this. I saw Foskey got a couple first-team reps today. Thought he looked a little more comfortable today. That's a good thing. Peyton Turner, we'll see what happens with him. But if you do not take advantage of this opportunity ahead of you, with all those guys out ahead of you or out in front of you that are not on the field, shame on you.
Yep.
Take advantage of the opportunity. This is your time to shine. This is your time to get on the field and get as many significant reps as possible with those guys out. Take advantage. But hopefully they can develop. Hopefully they do. But until that time, make no mistake about it. This is a hit to the depth. The Saints defensive line in particular, the defensive end position, in particular, a guy that can also kick inside in pass rushing situations. So Tano is a valuable piece. Hopefully he gets back soon.
I said this. I wrote one line about this topic, and I said it's an opportunity for Peyton Turner and Isaiah Foskey. We did a podcast about Peyton Turner when the Saints declined his 5th-year option, and we said Peyton Turner, he wasn't even a certainty to make it to day 1, to make it to week 1 against the Carolina Panthers with as much competition as he was going to have in OTAs and mandatory mini camp and training camp. And obviously, you want to see everybody stay healthy. We hope Tano Passanio recovers quickly. But for Peyton Turner and Isaiah Foskey, especially with the guys who aren't practicing, like you said, this is a time for them to step up and show the coaches not only, hey, I need to be on this roster, but hey, I need to get some PT. I need to get some runs, some playing time. Because Carl Granderson, he was one of the best defenders you had last year. He was probably their best. Probably about it. He was their best defensive lineman last year. He's not going to let you have his position.
Right.
Chase Young, the Saints are paying him enough money, and with the caliber of player that he has been and the name that he has, he's not just going to let you walk into his position. He's a guy who the Saints are going to want to play. And, oh, by the way, Cam Jordan, who's probably on the Mount Rushmore of Saints players in the franchise's history, you're not just going to step ahead of Cam Jordan and play. You're going to have to earn it. You're going to have to show that you can carry that weight on your shoulders. And right now, with Tano out, with Chase Young nursing an injury, with Cam Jordan nursing an injury, this is the time to do it for Peyton Turner and Isaiah Foskey, a 1st-round pick and a 2nd-round pick that the Saints invested a lot into. It's time to see that investment pay off a little bit.
It really does. I mean, it is time. I mean, it has to happen. You invested so highly at that position for so many years with these specific types of guys, these longer, more athletic sort of trees, if you will, like 6'5", 6'6" on the edge. So it's time. So take advantage. Again, OTAs, and we'll see what happens with Tano Passanio in terms of his timetable. But nonetheless, take advantage of any rep, any snap you get. All right, cool. That was a good day so far. OTA number 4. So all in all, it was a pretty good day's work out at Saints camp. I got to say, it was hot. My God, was it hot today. Like I said, I left 30A where it was really hot. The sun was out, but we had the beach and the pool. To come here, I don't know if I was expecting a little bit of relief, but I didn't get none. It was that felt like an August day out there at Saints camp, and they practiced. They let us out there at like 10:55 to like 12:30. I mean, it's not exactly the coolest part of the day. So
big shout for the people who are from up north and the Midwest.
DA talked about it. He was proud of the way his guys kind of battled through. But it was a hot one out there today, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and like I said, those guys who aren't familiar with that Louisiana heat, you're going to be living in it from now on, and you're going to be dealing with it in these practices for a long time. So it's, sometimes you say you got to throw them in the fire. They were thrown into the fire of the Louisiana heat,
and
for sure.
I saw one player, man, I didn't get a chance to see his number because it was kind of far away. Head was in a garbage can. I think the late May heat snuck up on him down here in Southeast Louisiana. But they got more OTAs to go. They'll continue this week, Wednesday and Thursday. We won't be out there, but nonetheless, we'll continue this podcast Wednesday and Thursday of this week. So another good week, another good kind of phase in the Saints offseason calendar. It's pretty fun.
Absolutely. Now, Sean, you need to go get you a nap because you're running on about 32 minutes of sleep.
32 minutes of sleep. I guess I got to get me some C's here. So anything else for us today?
No, I'm good.
All right. For Andre Johnson Jr., I am Sean Fazende. We'll catch you guys next time on Overtime.